for all those things. And the rest of my suits are like these vintage things from the 70s and the 80s. I love it. You can get such good stuff, and it looks good. Wow, I look good in the winter. Look good. I wear my suits in the winter because it's a little colder. I grow a beard, kind of let my hair go in. And the more I talk, some of you are thinking, do you look homeless in the winter? A little bit. A little bit. A student invited me to speak at his church, so I thought, sure, I'll come. So he says, wear a suit. We're a suit kind of wearing church. I thought, yeah, perfect. So I drove to his church late. I get into the parking lot. In my hurry to get out of my car, I forget my key in my car. I lock my key in the car. I look back, and there's my sermon notes, everything in there. I'm like, oh, no, this is not good. So I walk into the church, and here's what happens. Love this. The minute I step into the church, an alarm must have gone off somewhere. An intruder alarm. Because immediately some like previously practiced defensive maneuver went into action. Three deacons or greeters or whatever they are, defenders. I say this in love, by the way. It's a church far away. It's far, far away in a different galaxy. If you're watching this, I am telling a story about your church. But you knew this would happen. So the three deacons stand in like a delta formation around me. And one of them, the one chosen to interact, the diplomat, to interact with the intruder, begins to talk to me. And, although it's clear that this is not the way he talks every day, he goes, hello, dude. Like, greetings, I come from Planet Homeless. So I'm like, he's speaking to me in dude language. Okay, so I responded, hello, dude. He goes, how can we help you? I'm like, well, I still haven't, hasn't clicked with me. They're protecting. Well, I would like to use a phone to call AAA, which is a service that we have at home that helps you if you lock yourself in the car or if your car breaks down or whatever. I use it a lot. Can I borrow a phone? I left my phone, my notes, everything in my car. They're locked in. He goes, there is no phone here, dude. Like, what, you run an entire church without a phone? Really? Now it occurs to me like, oh, you think I'm homeless and I'm dangerous and you're going to protect your church from me. Okay. So then that's when you're like, this will be a sermon illustration. I'm going to milk this for all it's worth. I see big old, phone hanging from his belt. Phone, no offense, like phone on your belt. We call them belt mullets where I come from. Belt mullet, he's got the Bluetooth in his ear connected to his phone mullet in his belt. We call this the ear mullet too, where I come from, by the way. No, there's no offense. You can do it if you like to wear your ear mullet and your phone mullet here. And he goes, there is no phone here. I'm like, can I borrow your phone? Pointing at it, he covers it and goes, there is no phone here. There's a phone down the street. If you want to walk down to the little Circle K market, there's a public phone there you can use for that. At that moment, the student who invited me to speak at his church walks around the corner, and this is where I take great just pleasure. This is going to be delicious. He walks around the corner and he goes, Pastor Sam, I'm so glad you're here. We were worried you were going to be late. The deacons, the defenders, they look at him and they hear him, Mr. Sam, and then they look at me and they go, it's like their cosmos begins to just melt. Like, how is it possible that a homeless man pastor speaking at our church? They don't know what to do. So they just basically go, and they walk away. That church, this is a great metaphor for the death that we are facing as a people. That church will die. There's no doubt in my mind, it will die. Why? Because it's protecting and conserving. We're not called to protect and conserve. We aren't. Gladys, with a name like Gladys, you can probably take a guess at her age group. Gladys. She's so awesome. She's like in her late 80s. And her Buick, you don't know what a Buick is, do you? Buick is like the official car of retirement back home. Her Buick died about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Gladys is, she lives 4 houses down. Her Buick died. I saw them come and get it in a tow truck. They hauled it away. So Gladys went to buy herself a new car. And because the economy is slow, I could almost see the conversation happening at the dealership. The salesman going, old lady, I'm going to take you for all you're worth. Here's the car you need. She came home with a Subaru WRX STI. No, this is perfect. Here's what's happening right here. The dude in the relationship is like, the girl's like, wow, that sounds nice. Right? And then she's looking at him like, tell me what's so funny about it. Okay, well, the men don't need this explanation. The men know. This is a man's car. The ladies I'll explain it to you, ladies. This is not a car for Gladys. It's not made for her. This car is made for a 19-year-old hormonally poisoned dude who has something to prove, right? Who fears no death, who would bungee jump, it doesn't matter where, He'll do it in Guatemala or some country that has no laws protecting anybody. This is like, the WRX is a rocket. The Japanese neurotic scientists who build this thing don't have your safety in mind. They have speed in mind. I know this because a friend, one of the students that I ministered to said, Pastor Sam, I've got a brand new WRX STI. Let's go for a ride. I thought, yeah, sure, let's go for a ride. Minutes later, I knew this is a mistake. Face is bouncing off the window, and you have 3 Gs going on, and I'm digging holes into the seat, shouting, no, I have a family! But as you're experiencing this thrill ride, you realize this car is made for you. It's made for you, not for Gladys. You know what Gladys does with her Subaru WRX STI? She drives it to the grocery store once a week. It's a mile away. She buys milk and bread and fruit and some cat food for Fifi or whatever she calls her cat. And then she comes home looking through the hole between the steering wheel and the dash. And this car it even has the fin in the back, for speed, to keep it on the ground when you're going 180 miles an hour. It's got the post-factory installed loud muffler, so she comes coming through and we all, anytime she's driving, we all come out just to look at her, There goes Gladys. And she parks the car, and there are days when I jog past her house, and I see it, this beast parked in her driveway. And I get close to it. And it talks to me. It says, help me. Or maybe it's the voices in my head, but I hear something. Because it wasn't made for that. It wasn't made to be conserved and protected. It may live a long time, but it'll die a slow death until someday it'll go to the junkyard with perfect seats. And it'll never have lived the life that it was made for, will it? We are not called to conserve and protect. I'll tell you another story. Well, give me 2 minutes, a little later. We'll go a little late. 2 more minutes, promise you. That's not a problem. That's a lie. We had a student who, well, let me tell you, the beginning of her story is like this. She came home one day from work to South Central LA, which I'm told is a little bit like where we live here, or your church is, although I don't think so, because this area is really nice. South Central is a little dangerous. She comes home from work, and she stops for groceries. She parks her car at the apartment building where she lives. Her boyfriend of 4 or 5 years is inside the apartment. He's been there all day because he doesn't work. Jesus loves him. He doesn't work. Her 2 kids are in there with him. He's been watching them sort of over the day. Her kids are 4 and 2. Her older daughter, Savannah, is 4. And her son is, at that point, was 2 years old. And she honks the horn because she thought, I've been working all day. I bought the groceries with the money that I earned. I brought them home. I just need some help with the groceries. She honks the horn, and apparently, you don't do that to a homie. That's disrespectful. So he came out not to help her with the groceries, but to drag her into the apartment by her hair. And when she was in the apartment, he began to pummel her again like he did often. And her 4-year-old daughter witnessed this whole thing. And when he was done, he was good and tired, she dragged herself into the bathroom. Her daughter followed her into the bathroom, and she began to clean herself up, and her daughter's watching this whole thing. And later she tells me, an angel spoke through my daughter and said, Mommy, we have to get out of here. You are better than this. The next day, it's Saturday now, she got up early, packed a lunch, and she said, I'm going to take the kids on a picnic. There's a town called Riverside. It must be pretty out there. It must be a river and a meadow, and we'll go out there to have lunch. Here's the joke in this is that Riverside, there is no river, and there is no meadows. It's all city, and it's, but she thought, it's Riverside, it'll be pretty. She got her car ready, and she drives towards Riverside looking for the pretty river, and instead she crosses this sign that says La Sierra University, next right. And actually, she said, later she told me, I said, you know what? While I'm out here, I'm going to get an education too. I'm going to look into getting an education. Gets off, turns left, drives into the university, completely desolated. There's no one there. It's like a ghost town because it's like 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning. She thinks, well, what is this? Looks over at the church. There's all kinds of cars. There's people. So she says to herself, kids, a wedding? We're going to it because there'll be a reception. And we're going to eat better than the sandwiches I packed. So they drive over to the church. And she walks up the steps into our lobby, and the doors open, and there was no Delta Formation protective crew. There was these 2 sweet old people that saw her face, broken, bruised, and they knew, we are not here to protect and conserve. We're here to love. The woman, the greeter, came over to her and gave her a hug, and she said to her, it doesn't matter where you've been, it doesn't matter what's gone on in your life. You're safe here, you're safe. That's all. Treviet hadn't said a word to her. This lady just knew, you will be loved here. You'll be loved. And she was. They took her home. And they fed her lunch. And after lunch, they said, why don't you stay here tonight? And after that, they went and got her enrolled at the university, and she stayed for 2 years. For 2 years, they loved her, and they cared for her, and they took care of the kids, and they helped her with her tuition, and it was a great cost to them. They don't have a lot of resources, but this couple knew what we have is not to have, it's to use. And eventually, Treviet came to me, and she said, well, I've been around you guys for long enough. It's time to get baptized. And so we baptized her. And the night we baptized her, remember this, she came out of this water. Actually, when I baptized, I put her in the water at first. She began to convulse under the water. And I thought, this is demon possession. It's exactly what I heard. I've known about this all my life. The water. So,